Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. 1 minute, sir.
Okay.
Very good afternoon to everybody. Now, I would like to invite Dr. P. Sumadi, Assistant Professor of Botany, to welcome the August gathering and to introduce the resource person of this session, Dr. G. Dandavani, Assistant Professor of Botany. Madam, please.
Yes, sir. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. A very good afternoon to one and all who have gathered here for today's webinar session. Myself, Dr. P. Sumati, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. I would like to thank and welcome Dr. M. Arithami sir, President, and Dr. C.A. Vasiki ma'am, Secretary and Director, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, for giving me an opportunity to welcome you all for this webinar series. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. M. Lakshman Sami sir, Principal, and the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Chinnasamy sir, Kongunadu Arts and Science College. I feel delighted to welcome our Dean R&D, Dr. S. Parsami sir, and Dean Academics, Dr. S. R. Madan Sangha sir, for encouraging us to conduct such webinars for the betterment of the institution and the career of the student. Warm welcome and thanks goes to convener of this webinar, Dr. D. Vijayalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, for conducting this session. I would also like to welcome Dr. M. Vigneshwaran, Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, for coordinating this series. I would also like to welcome Dr. M. Revati Bala, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, PG, Mr. N. Senthil Kumar, Associate Professor of Computer Technology, for organizing this webinar series in sight of this global COVID-19 pandemic time and making us to be engaged with the current science and technology. Every thought you produce, anything you say, any action you do, it bears your signature. I feel much delighted to honor and welcome the resource person, Dr. G. Dandavani sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, Kongunadu Arts and Science College. He is now with us to lead the lecture on the topic Mechanism of Double-Stranded RNA Transport and Efficiency of RNA Interferences in the Fall Armyworm, Spodoptera principalda. Sir has completed his bachelor degree in botany in Bishop Keeper College, Tiruchirappalli, and a master degree in botany in Bhadradhasan University, Tiruchirappalli. He had his bachelor in education degree in biological life science in Sri Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya College of Education, Coimbatore. Sir made his PhD in plant biotechnology in Bhadradhasan University, Tiruchirappalli. He worked as a postdoctoral fellow in Department of Entomology, College of Agriculture, University of Kentucky, USA. As an added credit or resource person, worked as a senior research fellow and as a research associate in ICAR, National Institute of Plant Biotechnology, New Delhi. He is an expert in the field of plant tissue culture and genetic engineering, recombinant DNA technology, functional genomics for biotic and abiotic stress tolerance, RNA interference for insect pest management, and genome editing for crop improvement. Sir has published 2 book chapters, 24 research articles. He has visited countries like US and Canada. Now I request our resource person to take over the session. Sir, please.
Thank you, madam, for your welcome note and the introduction about the resource person.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, right.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yes, sir. So it's visible the slide?
Yes, sir. Could you please maximize, sir?
Okay.
Full screen mode.
Yes,
Make this full screen mode.
Full screen. Okay, so clear?
No, sir. Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, fine. You can proceed.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you, madam, for your kind welcome notes. And first of all, I would like to thank the management, the organizing committee for this webinar series, the vistas in the field of research and innovation. So I'm going to discuss about my part of work which I carried out in the University of Kentucky for my postdoctoral program. So the title of today's discussion is Mechanism of Double Stranded RNA Transport and Efficiency of RNA Interference in the Fall Armyworm, Spodoptera purgipeda. So just I'll give the brief introduction about RNAi and why we are doing this. So RNA interference, or also called RNAi, is a natural biological process that inhibits the expression of the specific gene which we are targeting. In 1998, the Fire and Mello, the first demonstrated the RNAi in the nematode worm, that is C. elegans, and published in the Nature. For this work, they awarded the Nobel Prize in the year 2006 in the field of physiology and medicine. So based on this approach, further the application of RNAi is widespread in the plants and animals, including all the eukaryotic system. So this RNAi pathway is found in many eukaryotes, including animals and plants. For that RNA induction, the double-stranded RNA once enter into the cell, there is a RNase 3 enzyme called TISR, which cleaves the long double-stranded RNA into the short double-stranded RNA. So approximately 19 to 24 nucleotide in size. So average is 21 nucleotide size. It's called as a short interference RNA, siRNA. This siRNA, double-stranded siRNA, is bound to the RISC complex, is present in the cytoplasm. Then, with the help of the argonate protein, that's the catalytic protein found in the RISC complex, they form the double-stranded into two single-stranded siRNA. They're called passenger strand and guide strand. So the passenger strand is degraded by the argonate protein, and guide strand is incorporated into the complementary strand of the messenger RNA. The genes which we are targeting in the insects or any cells. So they go and bind to the guide strand, and with the help of the argonate protein, the messenger RNA is degrading. So then further the messenger RNA should not available to make the any functionally forming of the proteins. So this is the basic mechanism for this RNAi. So I will explain simply. So before going to the RNAi, first we all should know about the general dogma of molecular biology. So when you see the graphical image, so as we all know that DNA is first converted into the messenger RNA, called the mRNA, called as a transcription. Then this messenger RNA is converted into the active form of protein with the help of the ribosome. So this all we know, this is the general dogma from DNA to mRNA, mRNA to protein. So when we talk about the RNAi, so as usual that DNA convert to mRNA is called the transcription will happen. So once the mRNA, that messenger RNA is formed, that short interference RNA will come and bind to this complementary sequence of the mRNA that will degrade. So what happened? The further that the mRNA sequence is not available in the ribosome to make any functional protein. So there is no mRNA, so there is no protein. So this is the basically RNA. This is called as a post-transcriptional gene silencing mechanism. We call it. So when come to the mechanism of RNAi and siRNA pathway, so basically the once they're long double-stranded RNA, so around 50 base pair to 1000 base pair of the size, whether we injected or fed to the insects, they enter into the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm have the 4 RNA missionary genes for the activating the RNAi. So first initially, as we discussed the previous slide, the TISR RNase 3 enzymes that cleave the long double-stranded RNA into small double-stranded siRNA, that is around 24 nucleotide. So then this siRNA which bind to the RISC complex, that is the RNA induced the silencing complex, and they have the argonate protein also. This RISC complex, with the help of argonate protein, the double-stranded siRNA cleave into the 2 single-stranded called as the passenger strand and the guide strand. That passenger strand is degraded by the argonate protein. Then guide strand go and bind to the complementary mRNA sequence, which the genes we are targeting for the endogenous genes. They're going to bind, and with the help of argonate protein, the mRNA is degraded. So further, this mRNA not available to make the proteins. So this is the basic mechanism how that RNA working in the insects and other systems. So when come to the efficiency of RNAi in insects, basically RNAi become only used as a reverse genetic tool to study the gene function in eukaryotic organisms. For example, if you want to study the, example, if you knock down the gene, specific genes, what will happen in the phenotype, whether it's any changes in the phenotype or the going to mortality. So you can study the multiple gene function. So that RNA is very helpful for the study the gene function. So based on that, this RNA technology is also used for the insect pest management. So this is the alternative for the chemical pesticide and insecticide. So this is the biopesticides. So RNA can be used as the biopesticides for insect pest management system. Then for the widespread application of this RNAi is varied due to the efficiency of between the organisms. So insects from different orders also display differential efficiency of RNA, because the efficiency of RNA is vary between and among the organisms. For example, there is a highly efficient and systemic RNAi in coleopterans were reported, and is very low efficient and non-systemic in lepidopterans were studied. So in the present study, so what I'm going to discuss about, so I took the two cell lines. One is for the coleopteran insect cell lines. In the coleopteran insect orders, I took two cell lines. One is for LEPD SL1, developed from the Colorado potato beetle. This is one of the devastating pests in the potato field in the America, called as a Leptinotarsa disciplinata. And the second beetle is the red flower beetle, Tribolium castaneum. The cell line is TCA cell lines. So these two cell lines we initially studied for the coleopteran insects. So this is the first image showing the coleopterans, that Colorado potato beetle larva, and second image showing the red flower beetle larva. Then second insect order is the lepidopterans. The lepidopterans, we took two cell lines. One is for SF9, developed from the fall armyworm Spodoptera brugibada ovary, and HPE6, that is developed from the tobacco fudworm, Heliothysis presens. So we are going to study how the dsRNA is transporting these two insect orders and how the efficiency of RNAi. So we studied both in vitro by all the four cell lines and in vivo by using the Colorado potato beetle insects and fall armyworm or tobacco fudworm larva. So when come to the, so this is the image showing the fall armyworm and tobacco fudworm larva stage. So before going to our work, I want to tell quickly about the life cycle of fall armyworm, because mainly I'm focusing on this fall armyworm for the coming slides. Basically the adult larvae, they're surveying up to 21 days in the optimum condition. Then these adults, they lays maximum 1,000 eggs with the batches. Every batches they're producing 50 to 200 eggs under the leaves. Then these eggs hatch the larvae. So the larvae survive from up to 6th instar, from first instar to up to 6th instar, they survive in the different stages. Then the 6th instar, they form to the pupa. The pupa will stay up to 8 to 30 days depending upon the environment and conditions. Then the pupa again convert to the adults. This is the basically life cycle of the fall armyworm. Then come to our experiment. So first we perform the real-time PCR to target the 3 endogenous genes, that is actin, SEC23 and V80BS. Then we selected this all 4 cell lines for SF9 and HPE6 from lepidopteran insect, and TCA and LEPD-S1 from coleopteran insects. Then we studied how the knockdown efficiency. Then what we done, so we prepare the double stranded RNA targeting these 3 genes, and we expose to these 4 cell lines. Then after 3 days, we isolate the RNA from the cell lines, convert it to the cDNA, and perform the qPCR. So here we can see that the SF9 cells, the first row, the source, there's no any significant knockdown. The first graph shows the control, the cells without exposing any dsRNA, or maybe the cells exposed with GFP dsRNA. GFP, that is green fluorescent protein that won't target any genes. So that not happen anything. There's no any changes that used as a control. The second graph, that's our target genes, whether actin, Sec23 or VTPS. So the SF9, we did not find any significant knockdown of this all three genes when we exposed to higher concentration of naked double-stranded RNA. When come to the further HPE6 also, there is no any knockdown, but when it comes to the TCA or LEPDS1, there is a significant knockdown of this endogenous gene we observed. So here we exposed naked dsRNA and we observed from around more than 50 to close to 100% knockdown of this actin or Sec23 or VTPS observed in the LEPDS cell line or TCA cell line, basically coleoptile cell line. So this study concludes that no significant knockdown of endogenous gene expression observed in SF9 cells by exposing naked dsRNA. In contrast, the highly significant knockdown of endogenous genes were observed in the coleoptile cell lines, that is TCA and the LEPD-SLN cell lines. Then go to the next part, the transport and processing of dsRNA in coleoptile and lepton cell lines. So here what we done, we prepared the GFP dsRNA and labeled with alpha P32 radioactivity. So we prepared this dsRNA and exposed to all 4 cell lines. What we studied previously, same. We exposed this radioactivity dsRNA to the all 4 cell lines. After 72 hours, we extract the RNA and count the RNA with scintillation counting. Then we done the beige acrylamide gels. Then we observe how the dsRNA is processing and transporting and processing. You can see here, there is a clear siRNA band.
Hello, Andamani sir, sorry for
Yes,
the
sir.
disturbance. Sir,
Yes,
any noise surrounding?
Yes, sir, some noise is there, sir. I think some borewell going on.
Okay, sir. If possible, can close the any door or window, sir.
I already closed everything, sir.
Okay.
Just I'll come to other room. Maybe. Just wait, sir.
The
Just,
noise is a little bit high, sir.
oh, okay. Oh, 1 minute. Oh, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you, sir. You continue, sir.
No, no. So 1 minute. 1 minute.
Hello.
அவன் கொஞ்சம் ஆஃப் சொல்லு. அவன் மிஷின் 10 நிமிஷம் காமன் நேரம்.
It's okay, sir. Hello,
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Sir, கேக்குதாங்க சார்?
Sir, yes, sir. It's audible?
It's
sir.
audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It is clear.
Hello.
Hello. Sir, கேக்குதாங்க
Okay.
சார்?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
So now, yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir. So I'm hearing.
Okay, sir. You continue, sir.
So now that, okay, sir. So when you come to the coleoptile cell lines, whether LEPD SL1 or TCA cell lines, they both are formed clear siRNA fragment that highlighted. In contrast, there is no siRNA formation in both SF9 and HPE6 cell lines, even though that all 4 cell lines, they uptake the dsRNA. So bottom of the source contrasting picture, even though we did not find any siRNA in the leptoprone cell lines. So the study showed that clear siRNA formation was detected in the coleoptile cell lines, but not with leptoprone cells. So when come to the uptake and transport of dsRNA in SF9 cells, so what we done, same the radioactivity labeled dsRNA, we exposed to only SF9 cells for 30, 60 and 90 minutes. After that, we extract the RNA and process the gels. We can see here, from 30 to 90 minutes, all the time points, the dsRNA uptake by cells, but the concentration is gradually increasing from 30 to 90 minutes. But there is no any siRNA formation, what we observed in the previously. So the study confirming that the SF9 cells uptake the dsRNA, but not processing to siRNA. So when it comes to the transport of injected double-stranded RNA into hemolymph of Protopototor beetle and tobacco perform. So here we are discussing about the insect system in vivo study. For in coleoptrons, we selected CPP, that is the Protopototor beetle. For lepidopterans, we selected tobacco platform larva. So we injected that radioactivity dsRNA probe, and after 3 days and 5 days, we collected hemolymph and run on the gel. You can see this image. So both 3 days and 5 days after injection, there is a clear dsRNA absorbed in the hemolymph of the lepidopteran CPP hemolymph. But in contrast, there is no dsRNA detected in the lepidopteran insect, that's the tobacco platform. In 3 days, there is a slight faint dsRNA band, but this completely disappeared in the 5 days. So the study concluding that intact dsRNA bands were detected in the Colorado potato beetle hemolymph, whereas degraded dsRNA was detected in the 3 days and 5 days injected hemolymph of the tobacco platform. So the concluding that tobacco platform have the more endonuclease activity. Due to that, there is degrading fast of the dsRNA. But in the case of coleoptera, there is a less dsRNA activity. They are not degrading that much. When we go for the processing, transport and processing of injected dsRNA in the both CPP and the tobacco platform tissues. So what we done here, same with the radioactivity label dsRNA injected to the both insects. Then after 3 days and 5 days, we dissected and taken out the midgut and fat body tissues in both Colorado potato beetle and tobacco platform, and we observed that in both cases 3 and 5 days of coleopterans have the clear siRNA formation, whereas no siRNA formation observed in the both midgut and fat body tissue of tobacco platform. So the studies, the clear siRNA was detected in the total RNA of Colorado potato beetle, but not with tobacco platform gut and fat body tissues. Tissue processed dsRNA into siRNA after taking up dsRNA from hemosyl in CPP larvae, that's Colorado potato beetle larvae. However, in tobacco platform, tissues taken up the double-stranded RNA, but not processed by hemosyl, but not processed into the siRNA. And then come to the feeding experiment. So we already saw that when injected with dsRNA, both the stability and the processing is very poor in the tobacco platform. So then we tested about what about feeding. Then the same radioactivity double-stranded RNA we fed with both larva, and we studied the transport and efficiency. You can see the gel that Colorado potato beetle insect the source clear dsRNA fragment in the hemosyl, but there is no dsRNA in the hemosyl of the tobacco platform. So in this case, not only with injection, the feeding also the degrading the dsRNA, because the hemolymph have the higher endonuclease activity in the tobacco platform as compared to the Colorado potato beetle. So intact dsRNA observed in the hemolymph collected from CPP larvae at 72 hours after feeding labeled dsRNA. In context, most of the dsRNA is degraded in the tobacco platform. So when come to the transport and processing of both the tissues by feeding the radioactivity labeled dsRNA. Same like, so after 3 days, we collected the epidermis, midgut, fat body from both Colorado potato beetle and the tobacco platform tissues, and we processed the gels. We can see here that all 3 tissues of CPP, that's the Colorado potato beetle, shows clear siRNA formation, whereas there is no any siRNA formation in all 3 tissues of tobacco platform, even the feeding. So total RNA isolated from all the tissues dissected from CPP contained siRNA. In context, no siRNA was detected in RNA isolated from tobacco platform tissues. This research suggests that dsRNA was processed to siRNA in CPP tissues, whereas dsRNA was taken up by the tobacco tissue, but not processed into siRNA. So this study concluding that both injection and feeding there is a less poor stability of dsRNA in the hemosyl, and there is no siRNA detection whether in injection and feeding with tobacco fat, but successfully siRNA detected in the coleoptera insects and cell line also. So when come to the here, then we checked with the other method of internalization of labeled dsRNA in SF9 cells. So what we done here, the same dsRNA we labeled with Cy5, that is a Cy5, a red fluorescence dye we conjugated with the dye. The dye basically have the pH sensitive dye and the maximum fluorescence at acidic pH. So the pH around 5 to 5.5, there's a maximum fluorescence we can see, but in the neutral pH, there is a less signals we can observe. So based on this methodology, what we done, we exposed this labeled dsRNA to the SF9 cells. So SF9 cells, this is the control cells. We did not expose to any labeled dsRNA. So there's no only the background noise we observed. When cells exposed to 30 and 60 minutes with the Cy5 with there is a punctuate fluorescence were clearly observed in both the time points there. So this results show that there's a punctuate pattern of fluorescence were observed, incubated with both 30 and 60 minutes with Cy5 labeled dsRNA. This is the basically we consider as the acidic bodies in the cells. Accumulating in the acidic bodies of the cells because the fluorescence have the accumulating more in the acidic pH. Then Cy5 labeled dsRNA uptake and accumulation in SF9 cells were studied by time-lapse imaging. So here what we done, we exposed the cells and kept under the time-lapse imaging, and we exposed the Cy5 labeled dsRNA and detected every certain time points. For example, at 1 minute, there is few dsRNA signals observed when entering in the cells. So when you go to the 3 minutes, the number of signals were increasing. Then when go to the 6 and the 15 minutes, there is a higher number and intensity of signals were detected in the SF9 cells. So this data concluding that uptake of dsRNA was detected within 5 minutes after the addition of Cy5 labeled dsRNA. An increase in the number and the intensity of labeled dsRNA containing acidic bodies was detected at 50 minutes after the addition of dsRNA. So this data concluding that even within 5 minutes, the dsRNA entering into the cells and accumulating in the acidic bodies. Then what about in vivo? Because we studied that in SF9 cells, that is the fall armyworm cells, the dsRNA is accumulating in the acidic bodies. The same approach we used in the in vivo study. So what we done, we injected the Cy5 labeled dsRNA into the fall armyworm tissues. After 6 hours, we dissected and taken mid-cut and fat body tissues and observed under confocal microscope. This tissue we saw that all 4 panel like tabby showing only nucleus and the Cy5 dsRNA red signal showing the acidic bodies, and merged both nuclei and the dsRNA merged and showing the there is a proper structure of the nuclei and dsRNA looking and pride fit tissue. So you can see that there is a acidic bodies in the tissue, also mid-cut tissue. And when you look under the fat body tissues, there is a higher number of the fluorescence in the acidic bodies of the fat body tissues, and all the tissues are surrounding to the nuclei. So this data show that injected Cy5 labeled dsRNA showed red granules in the fall armyworm tissue, similar to the granules were observed in the SF9 cells. So when go to the feeding experiment of this Cy5 labeled dsRNA, we observed same kind of red acidic bodies in the mid-cut tissues, and even fat body tissue also showed higher fluorescence of the red acidic bodies in the fat body tissues. So the fed Cy5 labeled dsRNA showed red acidic granules in the mid-cut and fat body tissues, similar to the results observed in the injected of the labeled molecules. So in both injected and fed Cy5 labeled dsRNA showed clear red granules in both the mid-cut and fat body tissues, not only in vivo, both in vitro and in vivo studies. So based on the studies, Next, we want to find out what is the acidic bodies, because we know that the pH is less, then acidic bodies means where exactly that dsRNA is accumulating. So what we done, we isolated the early and late endosome markers. For example, the RAF4 P protein is called the early endosome marker, and the RAF7 is the late endosome markers in SF9. So we isolate this gene and fused it with clean fluorescent protein and made the construct. Then that construct, this is the RAF4 construct expressed in the SF9 cells. This is the pattern of RAF4 early endosome marker pattern. Then we expose the cyber labeled dsRNA in this RAF4 late early endosome expressed cells, and we merge. So most of the cyber labeled dsRNA is merged with the RAF4 bodies. So this is the early endosome bodies we detected. So similar to that, the late endosome marker RAF7, the expressed into the SF9 cells. This is the RAF7 pattern, and exposed to cyber 5 labeled dsRNA. And when we merge, most of the labeled dsRNA co-localized with late endosome markers. So in both cases, most of the dsRNA is co-localized with early and late endosome markers. So this is confirming that the dsRNA accumulate predominantly in early and late endosomes of SF9 cells. So based on this study, what we done, the transport and processing of siRNA and internalization study, we made the model of the threat of dsRNA in CBP and fall armyworm cells. When you look at this figure, the right panel shows the CBP, where the dsRNA entering into the cells and through the endosome, they deliver into the cytoplasm, where the RNA machinery is available and successfully forming the siRNA and the efficient RNA we observed. So when you go to the right side, there is a Spodoptera. The dsRNA enter into the cells, but they are stuck with the endosome, whether early and late endosome. So it's not available to the where RNA is available in the cytoplasm. So there's no any siRNA reduction and no RNA induction. So this is the proposal in the cell line. And come to the larva, the dsRNA, whether injected or fed to the Spodoptera bulgipeda larva, they enter into the cells and they're accumulating predominantly in early and in late endosome. Further, not available to the cytoplasm where the core RNA is ready. So there's no any RNA change. That's why we did not observe any siRNA formation, or the stability also less, because they have containing more endonuclease activity in the hemosyl or mid-juice. So based on the study, we concluding here, RNA efficiency varies among insects depending on the species, delivery method, and genes targeted. Robust and systemic RNA response observed in CBP insect and LPD SL1 and TCS cell lines. So both polyopron insects and the cell lines, we observed systemic RNA. In the case of Dobokopatvam and the cell line HCE6 or SF9 cells, we observed only poor efficiency and none for differential efficacy of RNAi among insects due to the degradation of dsRNA by the presence of endonuclease presence in the whether the SF9 culture, conditioned media, or hemolymph or mid-gut juice. Then reduced uptake of dsRNA by cells. For example, the efficiency of uptaking is very poor in leptopteran as compared to polyopteran insects. The third is the dsRNA is predominantly accumulating in the acidic body, that is the early or late endosome, and reduced induction of genes coding for proteins involved in RNA. And there is some genes which are mainly involved for the RNAi, maybe options in the leptopteran insects as compared to the polyopteran insects. So this is the maybe the reason for the poor RNA efficiency in leptopteran insects. So when come to the next point, so how we can improve the RNAi in SF9 cells and their tissues? Because we find that these are the problem discussed why the poor efficiency we observed. Then we want to come out from this issue and we want to improve the RNAi. So for that, what we done here, we basically the naked double-stranded RNA, we conjugate that with the self-actin-2, that is the transfection reagents commercially available in the market. And the second is the hydrogen nanoparticles. It's well characterized nanoparticles, published so many articles, and utilized in the medical delivery of siRNA, dsRNA also application. So we conjugated the dsRNA with both self-actin-2 and the hydrogen nanoparticle and exposed to cells, SF9 cells. So this image showing the late endosome expressed SF9 cells, and most of the dsRNA were co-localized with this marker, late endosome marker. So when we exposing with the cyber fiber dsRNA conjugated with the self-actin or hydrogen, what has happened? There is a significantly reduced the labeled dsRNA, so there is no any co-localization with the late endosome marker. So approximately 80% reduction in self-actin delivered dsRNA and the 60% reduction with hydrogen dsRNA delivered cells there. So this experiment showed that self-actin-2 and the hydrogen nanoparticle helps dsRNA escape from the endosomal accumulation. So basically we previously studied that most of the dsRNA accumulating in the endosome. So when you're delivering with some carrier, so that will help from escape from the endosome accumulation. Then we studied about because we know that the dsRNA is escaping from endosome. Then whether we are getting any knockdown kind of any phenotype changes or knockdown by real-time PCR, then we prepare the dsRNA, the targeting IAP inhibitor of apoptosis, that is the endogenous genes. So we are targeting, we prepare the double-stranded RNA, we conjugated with the self-actin. So in the left panel we show the control, that is the GAP conjugated with self-actin-2, and the right showing the self-actin-2 conjugated DSIAP complex. So you see the right panel, there is a clear apoptosis phenotypes were observed in the SF9 cells. So when we measure the relative mRNA of IAP, there is more than 70% reduction in IAP mRNA observed with the self-actin-2 IAP complex when compared to self-actin GAP complex. So the study confirmed that the self-actin is really helping to the escaping from endosome and improved RNA by knocking down the target endogenous gene. So when come to the hydrogen also, similar study, there is a apoptosis phenotypes observed with hydrogen DSIAP conjugated complex. When measure the mRNA level, there is more than 50% knockdown of IAP dsRNA when exposing conjugated with hydrogen nanoparticle of DSIAP compared to the GAP dsRNA. So this study shows that both hydrogen and self-actin helps improve the RNAi in SF9 cells. And second approach we used based on the previous literature, there is a transmembrane protein, that is the SID1, systemic RNA deficiency 1. This is the basically isolate the gene isolated from the nematode worm C. elegans. This is help for the uptaking the dsRNA and directly transferred to the cytoplasm. So this then we isolate the genes and made the construct and stably expressed in SF9 cells. Then we expose to cyber dsRNA. When top figure shows the naked cyber dsRNA exposed to cells, they are mostly overlapping with the late endosome marker RAP7. The bottom panel shows the SID1 cell line, and exposing dsRNA, there's not much co-localization with the late endosomes. Around 70% reduction of co-localization with the late endosome, because the label dsRNA enter directly to the SID1 channel. So directly go to the cytoplasm for the RNA process. Then we checked with the efficiency also by real-time PCR. Here also same 3 endogenous genes we selected: IAP, SEC23, and V80PS. This all 3 genes, so that is a naked double-stranded RNA, we exposed to the SF9 cells stable with C. elegans SID1 protein. Then when you exposing that, there is a clear significant knockdown were observed with all cell line. For example, then IAP, there's a 40% knockdown and 60% knockdown with SEC23 and 63% with the VATPS. So depending upon the genes and mode of delivery, so there is a significant knockdown we observe with not only single genes, now all three genes we observed. So this data show that not only with any transfection reagents and nanoparticle, this kind of dsRNA transport channel also helping to improve the RNAi in SF9 cells. Then next, so previous study we saw that whether injected or fed cyber-label dsRNA accumulating in the host bodies. So now what we done? So and fed to the Spodoptera frugivorta larva, and we studied both the midgut and fat body. So this is the naked dsRNA fed midgut tissue showing the more red granules. This is the astic bodies present in the endosomes. So when you delivering with the self-acting dsRNA, there is a less signals observed in the midgut tissue because they are escaping from the endosomes. And around 60% reduction of cyber-label dsRNA accumulation observed in the midgut tissues when exposing with self-acting 2 complex. So when come to the fat body, there is a significant reduction of labeled dsRNA in the fat body tissue when fed with the self-acting complex, and so around 70% reduction in the accumulation of cyber-labeled dsRNA. So the study told that the feeding cyber-labeled dsRNA with the self-acting complex, they significantly reduced the accumulation in the astic bodies. Then same approach we used for chitogen nanoparticle also. So here the top panel showing the dsRNA and the bottom with the chitogen delivery shows less number of fluorescence in the midgut tissue, and around 70% of reduction in the red fluorescence when you're delivering with the chitogen complex. In the fat body tissue also, there is a significant reduction of cyber dsRNA accumulating in the astic bodies, and around closely 80% reduction were observed. So compared to midgut, fat body shows the more efficient of escaping from the endosomes. So the study also showing that when you're delivering dsRNA conjugated with chitogen or self-actin particles, they're greatly escaping from the endosome and improve the RNA efficiency. Then come to the in vivo study. So here what we done, so both we are targeting IAP, that is the endogenous inhibitor of apoptosis protein. We are conjugated with the self-actin 2 and the chitogen nanoparticle were fed to the Spodoptera frugivorta larva. Then after a week, then we collected the tissues and isolated RNA, and we studied the mRNA level. How we done in the cell line, same we done in the larva. So we can see the first two graph, that is the naked dsRNA, because we didn't conjugate it with anything, directly fed. So there is a 32% knockdown of IAP gene expression when compared to the GAP dsRNA that is used as a control. So when come to the middle red graph shows the 60% reduction of IAP gene expression. So that is the DSIAP conjugated with the self-actin 2 fed larva. Then come to the chitogen, there is a 42% reduction of IAP gene expression with the chitogen complexes fed. So the relative expression study showed that compared to naked double stranded RNA, the DSIAP conjugated with whether self-actin 2 or chitogen nanoparticle improve the knockdown of the endogenous genes. So, but compared to chitogen, self-actin 2 the more efficiency for the improvement of the knockdown. So when we come to the mortality, so mortality study we performed with the SF neonates, the feeding by sucrose droplet method. Here also we fed and chitogen conjugated IAP. So when you see the naked IAP dsRNA, there's only 25% corrected mortality observed. But in the case of self-actin 2 or chitogen mortality, corrected mortality respectively. So in this case also, compared to chitogen, self-actin 2 shows more % mortality. So this data show that compared to naked IAP dsRNA fate larva, the DSIAP conjugated with self-actin 2 or hydrogen nanoparticle fate larva showed an increase in mortality in the units of fall amoeba larva. So based on the summary, the dsRNA conjugated with self-actin 2 and the hydrogen nanoparticle prevents the degradation by dsRNAs presence in the SF9 cell culture condition media. Because when the cells culture in the media, they're going to release some endonucleases. And hemolymph and midgut juice also, they're releasing the endonuclease. So that when we conjugating the dsRNA with this two particle, they preventing the degradation. The second, delivering cyber fiber labeled dsRNA conjugated with these two particles, they source less escape from this SF9 cells, midgut and bad body tissues. So they are reducing the accumulation and also helping to come out from the endosomes. The third, so compared to naked dsRNA conjugated with these two particles, fetal units showed increase in knockdown of target genes and mortality. To conclude that overall, RNAi in fall amoeba, that is Scotoptera purgipata, can improve by delivering dsRNA formulated with lipids, hydrogen nanoparticles, or any other suitable particles which is improve the endosomal escapes and good transport or overexpression of the dsRNA transport channel. This is a chitone channel, basically isolated from the CL icons, which help for the improving RNA efficiency in the Scotoptera purgipata. So for this, I would like to acknowledge the funding agency, that is the CAMTech, Center for Advanced Management Technology, and the National Science Foundation from USA for the supporting for the last 4 years. And also I would like to thank to my colleague, Dr. Shukla and Dr. Mehagalsi and Dr. Satnam, Dr. Kanagachari, Dr. Sunny, and my Professor Supareddy Palli for the significant helping for this work. So thank you all. I would like to thank everyone, and any question and suggestions, welcome.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. The participants can post their queries in the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Participants have any queries? Please post in the chat box. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. There is no queries in the chat box. Now I request Dr. K. Karthika, Assistant Professor of Botany, to propose the vote of thanks. Madam, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible, madam. You can proceed.
Thank you, sir. Research is creating new knowledge. Neil Armstrong. A warm good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of our Konganada Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, and myself, Dr. K. Kartiga, Assistant Professor of Botany, has been a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks for this occasion for the webinar series on vistas in the field of research and innovations. The vibration of gratitude attracts more positive things into your life. It is my great privilege to submit my sincere thanks to our respected President, Dr. M. Aruchami sir, and our Honorable Secretary and Director, Dr. C. A. Vasigi Madam, for providing an opportunity and gave a platform to conduct a valuable webinar series in our esteemed institution. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. I offer my heartfelt thanks to our respected principal, Dr. M. Lakshmanaswamy sir, for his kind encouragement and support rendered for this webinar series. Thank you, sir. I take immense pleasure to thank our beloved Dean, Research and Development, Dr. S. Palsami sir, for his valuable guidance throughout this program. Thank you, sir. Insects are our most serious competitor for food and fiber and are vectors of some of our most serious diseases. In India, Rajasthan, Jaipur witnessed massive locust swarm on May 25, 2020. It is moving rapidly towards the south and eastern part of the state in searching of food. Apart from chemical pesticides, researchers are still finding the safer and more pest-specific alternatives to control pest insects. RNA interference is a promising technology for a development of next generation insect pest control products. Nowadays, the agricultural biotechnology industry has taken advantage of the use of transgenic crops expressing insecticidal RNAs. With this note, I express my sincere gratitude to our today's resource person, Dr. G. Dandabani sir, Assistant Professor of Botany of our college, delivering a most needed talk on the topic mechanism of double standard RNA transport and efficiency of RNA interference in the fall armyworm, Spodoptera fergiperda. Thank you, sir, for your interesting and thought-provoking lecture. It creates a new idea in the field of molecular biology. I hope all the participants are enjoyed the session, and I'm sure that your informative speech enrich our knowledge and motivates to initiate their research in this field. Success doesn't happen overnight. I extend my deep sense of appreciation to the convener of this webinar series, Dr. D. Vijayalakshmi ma'am, coordinator Dr. M. Vigneshwaran sir, Assistant Professor of Mathematics, and organizing secretaries Dr. M. Revati Bala ma'am, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, and Mr. N. Sendil Kumar sir, Associate Professor of Computer Technology, and other technical management team members who have worked behind the screen for their teamwork to make this webinar series in a successful way. I also extend my thanks to all the participants of our college and other college for your valuable presence and active participation to make this webinar a grand success. Once again, I thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, madam, for your nice words. Participants are requested to join us on tomorrow by 9:45 a.m. The first session will be on emerging trends in interdisciplinary researches by Dr. D. Chitra, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English. And the second session will be on environmental pollutions and remedies in Tamil modern literature by Dr. K. Murugesan, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Tamil. Thank you for your participation. Have a nice day.